No. Mr. Thune, aye. Mr. Cornyn, aye. Ms. Warren, no. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Ossoff, no. Mr. Fetterman, no. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Van Hollen, no. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Coons, no. Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Hickenlooper, no. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Bozeman, aye. Ms. Klobuchar. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schiff, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, no. Mrs. Capito. Mrs. Capito, aye. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wicker, aye. Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. Fisher, aye. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz, aye. Mr. Mullen. Mr. Mullen, aye. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. Gallego. Mr. Gallego, no. Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis, aye. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse, no.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 49. The confirmation is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's actions. I recognize the senator from South Carolina.
Thank you very much to my colleagues. We'll soon be starting what is commonly called a vote-a-rama. If you've never been in one, it's okay. But no, it's a chance to have a spirited discussion and debate about policy and about the budget resolution. So what's happened here is that the Budget Committee reported out Senate Concurrent Resolution 7 that will allow through the reconciliation process the spending of money and the reduction of spending based on different committees. This resolution allows for $175 billion of border and immigration policy enhancements, but it doesn't spend a penny. It allows the Judiciary Committee and the Homeland Security Committee to come up with up to $175 billion plan to secure our border and do immigration reform. And what will happen is that those two committees, Mr. President, will work with the Trump administration to meet their priorities. There's nothing in this resolution directing one dime of spending, and no spending bill can be implemented without presidential signature. So I want to make sure that's clear. There's $150 billion in increased defense spending. Why? Because we have a lot of threats. Since the withdrawal of Afghanistan, radical Islam is on the rise. We've got a hot war with Russia and Ukraine. Israel's facing enemies on 7 sides. We've provided weapons to our allies in Ukraine and Israel. We've run out of 155 howitzer rounds for a while. We've got to reinforce our industrial base. We need more money into our military yesterday to make sure that we can deter a war, and if we get them to a war, we win it. So the $150 billion will be allocated by the Armed Services Committee. We don't direct how the $150 billion is spent. We just allow the Armed Services Committee to spend that much if they choose. They decide what to spend it on. So this idea that there's somehow money in this resolution for Ukraine or any other specific purpose is not true. All we do is create a number for the committees to mark up to, and it's up to the committee as to what is in the $150 billion package. And to all the colleagues here, you'll eventually get to vote on that work product. And if you don't like it, you can vote no, and eventually that work product will have to be signed by the president. So that's the way the process works. But what we're doing today is jump-starting a process that will allow the Republican